And we're live.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we are. I'm recording right now.
Oh.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know what camera I'm on right now because I've got this silly setup going. For the first time, we're going to do an interview. I'm going to interview my wife, believe it or not. It's been, 12 years. Nobody seemed to care until now. No, I'm just kidding.
Hilarious.
So this is my very vertically challenged wife of 12 years, Cristen. Welcome to the show, dear.
Hi. It's weird that the camera's all the way
Well,
over
yours
there.
is right there.
Oh, okay.
So I've got two. So they're automatically switching back and forth.
It's easier to look at that one.
Yeah. So you could look at whatever, or you could look at me. I know it's difficult sometimes, but for now, for the sake of video, and hopefully the audio will sound okay. I don't know. I just did a test run, so yeah. I mean, it seems like levels are fine, and it seems to be recording. So yeah, we're just gonna wing it and hope it works out. Because if not, I'm SOL.
Cool.
So we've made drinks. You didn't hear that because I turned my head. My wife made drinks because she loves to play bartender.
Yep.
What did you make us, dear?
Oh,
You have something different.
I just have wine.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
I get the experiments.
But I don't drink sugar. Well, okay, wine is sugar, but I don't drink the mixed sugar drinks.
That's pretty good. I told my wife recently that I was interested in a pear drink just because we were watching this Drink Masters on Netflix. And I thought, yeah, pear drink sounds really good. I love pears. So she goes to the liquor store and buys half of their quantity of pretty much everything. Comes home with this giant box full of everything. And what was there, 10 bottles in that box? Something like that?
Yeah.
Quite a few. How many bottles of actually pear alcohol was in that box?
One,
Yeah.
It's
So
the only pear the store had.
me saying that I wanted a pear drink gave my wife a license to go and clean out a liquor store.
No, we watched Cocktail Masters. No, Drink
Drink
Masters on Netflix.
Right.
Yeah.
And it looked
We
great.
were inspired.
Yes. I'm still waiting for my Drink Masters drink. So far I've had 2 milkshakes. So
They had all these cream liqueurs.
right, yes, you bought all of them.
I did.
So that's what I'll be trying to enjoy this evening. I don't even know where to begin really because there's so much that's happened since we met. You married me.
Oh, I
30
forgot we
pounds
were
bigger.
talking about us.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going to talk about us. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but I think some people are curious because I've done some polling and asked, and some people are curious about us and what it's like to be married to an ogre. And so, yeah, I mean, you married me much like bigger, much poorer. So she didn't marry me for money, y'all, believe that or not. And a lot's changed since then.
Yeah.
So I know when, I remember early on, I was still in the MMA business, and I guess I'll let you tell people how we met because my way is much more simple. It's funnier and not necessarily quite as true. So I'll let you tell your side of how we came about.
Oh, because you're going to tell everyone how I was hiding in your bushes? That's basically all he says. And that's been your line for, 12 years.
Yeah, see? So you've heard it so many times now.
I'm so long-winded.
Yeah, I'll cut you off.
I have a hard time leaving out details.
And multiple times at that. So I'll stop you at the first telling. Once you rearrange it and go through the second one, I'll say, okay. And then we'll move on.
So, my one, I guess Angela, right? So my friend Angela, who used to work out at the gym that I worked at, would always invite me to these MMA shows. And it's weird looking at this camera. There's like no one there.
Think of that camera as thousands of people.
Yeah. And I always said, no, I'm not into that sport. It's super barbaric. It's how I felt at the time. And I just wasn't into it. So I never went, but I knew who he was because she would always talk about him and kind of bring him up. And then one day I had a Facebook friend request from Jason Appleton.
Big Daddy.
And at the time I was 26 and I only at that time in my life would accept friend requests from people. That sounds odd. At that time, I would only accept friend requests from people that I knew somehow, some way. And because I knew he was quote unquote Angela's boss, and she always talked about him, that I accepted the request. This is getting really long already.
Yeah, you started at the furthest possible. See, I just found her in my bushes. It's way easier to get through.
I'll hurry up. Okay. So I would see him pop up in my feed. Some of the pictures I thought he was really cute. Other pictures I thought, I don't really know.
She's trying to say I was really ugly.
No, he wasn't ugly.
I didn't look good in photos at all. I still don't to this day. So understandable.
No, I don't know. Some pictures looked one way and some pictures looked another way.
Depends on what profile you get, I guess.
Well, and then it said 7 foot of big show, which I thought was just a complete marketing ploy for, I don't know, the
MMA Big Show.
The Big Show guy from WWE.
Oh, yeah. Like I was a big fan.
Something. I don't know.
Right.
And so then I saw him at, oh, no. So maybe
you can skip ahead a little. That's fine. Go ahead. Whatever.
Should I skip ahead?
I mean, I don't care. I don't really even know what you're about to say. But.
Oh, well, okay. So, like, I don't know. For 4 or 5 months, for 4 or 5 months, he would show up on my feed, and I would kind of randomly look through his stuff. And then I saw one day he was in a relationship, and for whatever reason, I did not like it. Mind you, I had never met him. I wasn't even... I don't know why. I don't know why it bothered me, but it did. And I wasn't even that person at all. So I ended up seeing him at a club with the girl he was in the relationship with very soon after that, maybe like a week or two. And I thought, oh, wow, he is really tall and he looks way better in person.
She's so superficial, shallow of a woman.
Maybe no. And so then I told my friend Angela, oh, I saw Jason. And she said, oh, well, you should have said hi. And I thought, well, no, he was with this girl he was kind of dating. And that's super tacky because what other point do I have of coming up to this guy saying, oh, hey, we're friends on Facebook. What's up? And I said, that's super tacky and I don't do tacky. And she said, well, he's having a party this weekend. Do you want to come? I said, absolutely.
Yeah. And that was, it was, so back then I actually managed fighters and I had a guy that, he'd been fighting for me since he was an amateur all the way up to pro. And he was making a Strikeforce debut and we had just signed him to Strikeforce not too long before that. And he was making his debut. I think it was against Bobby Volker. And, yeah, we were having a big watch party at a bar I used to eat dinner at all the time. And yeah, that was the first time we officially met. And so, yeah, it was odd because, the girl I was quote unquote seeing, I tried to split it off a few times and she didn't really want to go anywhere. And so I didn't feel bad at all about letting you try my beer and no,
you gave me your beer.
I gave you my beer.
You said the waitress.
It was a cider beer, and I
brought
liked
it to you, and you said, "Have you ever had one of these?" And I said, "No." Mm-hmm. And you pushed it across the table to me, and you said, "Here, have mine. Try it. You'll like it."
And you did.
I did like it.
Yes. And that was all she wrote. So. Yeah, I mean that, and from there
we had a little. I don't know if that's all she wrote. I mean,
it was true love at first sight.
I did have to dump you once after like 3 or 4 dates. He just.
I was still scarred from the woes. So to put it into perspective, I was abstinent for 7 freaking years, and I basically swore off the world because of just all of the crazy. That I was encountering, and then lo and behold, I ended up in the king of all bad relationships, and so I was pretty scarred at a lot of that. We'll just leave it at that. And so when I met her, I just assumed everything out of her mouth was BS, and she was just another, like, what can you do for me? How can I hustle you? Just, how can I ruin your life? Like, that was pretty much where I was mentally and emotionally. So, yeah, and she knew that. So it was, she tried to break the veil a couple times, and things just didn't really seem to go very far. And I remember your text. You basically said, look, I don't mean anything bad or something like that, but not only should you not be dating me, you shouldn't be dating anyone right now. I wish you all the best. And I just said, I understand. That was really
something
it.
like that. I think or I agree with you, or something along those lines.
Yeah. And so so we did have it was funny because it was kind of like a fate in a lot of ways. I don't know how much I believe in fate, but it was definitely kind of the way everything happened for both of us, really. And they always say, if you love something, set it free. If it comes back, it's yours forever. And I definitely think this is one of those situations where, we obviously weren't in love early on, but I think it was just how things were meant to play out for us to get to where we are. And it wasn't pushed, and it wasn't forced, and it wasn't, it wasn't anything crazy. I just think it was one of those things that just gradually fell into place as it was meant to.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, after 3 months, when you didn't get on my nerves, I thought, this man must be it.
Yeah, she was a heartbreaker for those of you. She was use you up and spit you out.
Jason?
If you dare say any words about emotion or love, she's out like a light.
If I didn't feel that way, if my feelings were not, if what they were feeling wasn't mutual on my side, it just wasn't.
Peace out.
It just wasn't mutual.
Peace out.
I just didn't feel the same.
Yeah, so I never told her I loved her.
Whatever.
I didn't, and you told me first at the Halloween thing.
I don't know if I've ever done that.
We were dressed like vampires.
It was so, and I remember it was so hard for me.
She was so into me as a vampire.
Well, yeah, I was.
Yeah, I know you were, and we were just sitting there, and
no, that is what happened, but there's a precursor to that.
I don't remember the precursor.
I know you don't. So you had this talk with me on the way down about how I was really bad at expressing my emotions and that you never knew how I felt.
Right.
And then
I called her my ice queen for like the first year we were dating.
Yeah. And I remember having this horrible feeling in my stomach because I had strong feelings for you inside, but I guess all my life I had never, that just wasn't how it's not that I wasn't raised that way, but the gymnastics, whatever. It just, a lot of things,
She was raised and groomed to be a very cold individual, it's actually funny because it's partially true. 10 years, wasn't it? 10 years as a gymnast?
Yes.
So,
gymnast,
and they basically teach you, suck it up, buttercup, keep going. Like you'd be bleeding out of your eyes, and they're just like, everybody is very kind of cold, and I don't know, you don't show emotion, don't show weakness, kind of just muscle through it. And, which is crazy to me, but it's funny because we're watching this show called Wednesday right now on Netflix. And it's such a good show because I always wanted to know what her high school years were like. And so even last night, she's like, I have to admit, like, there's a lot of similarities. Now it's magnified and dramatized by 100 times, but I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, we've domesticated each other so much over the years because early on I was a faux hawk wearing affliction, pushing, kind of I wouldn't say an MMA douche, but I was definitely I was much more aggressive, much less refined. Yeah. So, I've softened you up, and well, I guess you've just domesticated me a bit through the years because now you're much more emotional, much more,
I feel I don't feel like I'm any more emotional than I used to be.
You've
I
just
just
been getting better at
express
showing
my
it.
emotions more.
Right.
So I still feel the same, but I actually am better
You're
at,
less guarded.
yes, less guarded.
Yes.
Yeah. But I feel like in addition to the gymnastics, I had a tough childhood.
Right.
And so it was a lot of just like, there's this perfectionist life that I'm like being raised in to be a competitor. And then there's the, life that's hard that you're trying to also protect yourself as a child. So yeah. But anyway, so
So
you
what was one of the main things to you that allowed you to not only want to be around me or with me, but like what made you feel secure to open up?
because you made me feel safe, and I felt like you're the only other person. Jesus, Jason.
Are you getting emotional?
Yes.
No way.
You're the only other person besides my mom and my sister who I felt like I could trust completely.
See, we're not. I don't want to get emotional here. I just,
You just made me feel really safe.
yeah. I mean, I think especially for both of us. I have a really big thing about honesty. I have a really big thing about integrity, accountability, basically all of the things that seems half the country's trying to get rid of right now. And it's like, I think especially both of our backgrounds, both of our childhoods were pretty rough. I mean, you had rough family situations. I had kind of rough environments, and they're just things that I think when you find them, it either resonates with you and allows you to start feeling free, feeling normal, feeling like you can actually live instead of constantly protecting yourself. And, yeah, I mean, I totally get it, because I've never looked at anyone and felt like I trust that person to have my back at all times. I mean, she's literally saved my life once. Literally saved my life. And I'm not even exaggerating. I won't get too deep into it, but there was a situation with an ex of hers who really liked to just say whatever he wanted to in text and pretty much anywhere. And we were engaged at the time, and I was I had enough of it. And I told him, I said, I don't know if it was a steroid thing for him or what, but he was just an asshole. And I told him, I'm like, you can't talk to my fiance like this anymore. I've had enough of it. And he made some really shitty comments back, and and then she tells me, and this is after I've been drinking at a tug of war event,
like a German festival.
Yeah, it was like a German festival tug of war thing where you get free beer if you participate. And so I was a little tipsy, but and then she says, we have to go pick up my son. And I'm like, oh no. All right, well, pull off into the speedway. I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. And she just didn't seem to understand. She doesn't know men the way I do. And so we ended up getting to his house, and I told her to park on the street, and she's like, why? And I'm like, just park on the street. I was like, if anything happens, I don't want to be on his property. And she parks on the street, and I'm just standing outside the car, and he finally shows up, and it's dark at this point, and he gets out, and he's just being a smart ass.
He just kept saying, what's up, Jason?
What's up, Jason?
What's up?
Just real douchey.
I mean, almost just like that too.
Exactly what he was.
Yeah, it was bad.
And the first time I didn't say anything, and then and the second time he's like, what's up, man? And by the third time, and I told him, I was like, you think you're funny, but you're not. And as soon as I said that, he's like, what? What'd you say to me? And he goes in. I didn't realize they were just coming home from a softball game. Apparently he was playing softball. And he goes into his car and grabs a ball bat. And he came at me in the street, and it was dark. So I was nervous because I just kind of saw this little blocky silhouette coming at me. And as soon as he got within arm's reach, I just knocked him right on his ass in the street. And what I didn't realize is that his brother was also with him. also with a baseball bat. So as I'm dealing with Mark on the street in the middle of the street, or I said his name. It doesn't matter. I don't think he cares. He tells everybody anyway. I didn't realize I was being clubbed on the back of the skull with a baseball bat by his brother, and little Mighty Mouse, basically grabbed the bat that he was hitting me with and started shoving him and pushed him all the way back up into the driveway. And I had already had a concussion. I didn't even know I was being hit. I legitimately didn't. I never saw him. I never saw any of that. I was focused. And I ended up with 4 staples in the back of my head and a concussion and everything, and never had a clue. It wasn't until I think we got home where you told me that.
We were driving and I noticed your eyes. I said, "Look at me." I mean, I asked you right away to look at me because I knew he had hit you, and I was pretty positive he hit you in the back of the head.
Mm-hmm.
And so I instantly said, "Look at me," so I could look at your eyes. And I knew when your pupils were tiny in the dark and they weren't dilating. I'm like, we need to go to the hospital.
Yeah, I don't think we went to the hospital though. I think we just called.
No, we went straight to.
Oh well, see, I don't remember.
We went straight to the hospital, and
yeah, I had no idea. So, and if she had not had the wherewithal and the just kind of like fire, I guess, because
the thing is I took off running towards the house first to try to because my son was in the front yard and he was freaking out, so I went running towards him. But as I was running towards him, all of a sudden I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I looked back, and that's when I saw the brother, and I like turned around and ran in towards you guys, and basically I don't really remember because I feel like
plus it was dark, so it was like
dark. I just remember kind of jumping in the air, and as I did that, I think I jumped over you guys, and I just grabbed the bat.
Yeah, but if you wouldn't have grabbed the bat, I could be dead.
Yeah,
like legitimately. And it's like in hindsight, because I had no idea that was happening, and I don't know how many times I was hit. I just know I had 4 staples in my head, and I tried to do the Roadhouse thing where like, you want some numbing thing? I'm like, pain don't hurt. Do you remember that?
No. Yes, I do.
And when they pulled him out, it was like when they pulled him out, it was fine. But when he was putting him in, I'm like, I think
you were also half out of it because of the concussion.
I might have been. I was pretty out of it. So anyway, yeah, like she legitimately saved my life. So I mean, at that point, it's kind of like, what do you do with a woman like that but keep her? So yeah. So now, yeah, I mean, there's so much has happened over the years, and we've early on, I mean, when I was in the mortgage business, because I got out of MMA, got into the mortgage business, and then you got into real estate, and you ended up opening a couple of brokerage offices in 2 states, and we were just hustling and bustling and trying to make our way. And and then I discovered crypto. And I've told this story a few times, but what do you remember about the night that I woke up in the middle of the night?
I just remember that you woke up. I can't remember if you woke me up first or if I think you woke me up. Yeah, I think you woke me up, and I think you were just hysterical. I mean, you were kind of.
I was kind of.
And then I don't know if you grabbed me first and like hugged me, and you were crying, and you were just.
It sounds so crazy.
But at first, I think I was freaking out because
yeah,
I was like, "What's wrong? What is wrong? What's the matter?" And like, you don't understand how big of a deal this is. You're like, this is the future.
I went on a complete ramble, like an emotional, manic ramble about blockchain and how, like, because it did. I don't even know why, but I was just thinking about it. And at the time, I was reading about it, and just everything, watching it. And it's like, I don't know, it just out of nowhere, everything just clicked, like all 8 cylinders. And it was almost like as everything was clicking in my head, I don't know, it woke me up or something, and it all made sense the second I woke up. and I couldn't take it somehow. Like, she didn't know what to make of it. She thought I was losing my mind. She was probably like, "Oh my God, is this what happens when people go crazy?" Like, I mean, it was a really big deal, and that was the moment where I really started. I told her, I was like, I'm gonna max out my credit cards. I'm gonna build a mining rig, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do that, and I know at the time, so I've always been a bit of a dreamer. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always been somebody who's always looking for a better, easier way to accomplish X, Y, Z. I've always been someone who I try to work smarter, not harder. I'm a big ogre. I don't like to run all over the place and waste a lot of energy. And I feel like I just discovered, like you said, I discovered the future of everything. And it was like there's so many instances in my life where I felt like I had a great plan, a great idea, something I was going to do here, something I wanted to do there, following my passions and just trying to explore and learn. And it's like the school of hard knocks. It's like you learn from your experience, you learn from your failures, and everything I've ever tried, everything I've ever wanted to do, whether it went well or it didn't, or I got bored or whatever, it's always been a learning experience for me. And when this just popped up in my head, I knew that this is where I was going to spend the rest of my time. Like, this is what I wanted to focus on. And she thought, "Okay, dear, okay, whatever you say, I get it. I support you." That's been her line since day one. I support you 100%. Whatever you want to do.
All of your projects and ideas and
yep,
all of that.
Never once that I don't think there's ever been a time where she's ever said that's stupid. I don't really think there's ever been a time.
There may have been one or two where I thought, that seems silly. But you have a lot of ideas.
Yeah. Well, I've reined a lot of that stuff in.
One or two isn't bad.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole point of me even bringing some of these things up is the fact that I think in a relationship, because maybe there are women out there who are watching and maybe they have a dreamer for a husband who just can't seem to get anything figured out, and I think that, there's something to be said about a woman with the patience, the faith, and the trust that not everything is going to work out. But as soon as you start ridiculing the man you're with, or the woman you're with for that matter, and like, that's never going to be anything, that's never going to amount to anything, stop wasting your time, go do this, go do that. As soon as you take that spirit away from somebody, then it's going to be that soulless person that you're going to spend the rest of your time with until you just get tired of it going nowhere. And I really believe, I feel like we've always supported each other in whatever the hell it was. She's a dancer. I mean, and a damn good dancer at that. I'm like the opposite, and she thinks I'm always annoyed. I'm annoyed by how much my wife talks about dance. I love to watch her dance, but if I had a day where I'm not hearing about salsa or I'm like, cool, got through that one. She can, and we're not talking about it now. I'm just saying. But she's very competitive, and she's very, very passionate about dance and movement and the body and the flow and the energy and all of that. She's much more of a hippie than I am. I'm more like circuitry and robots, and she's more like, there was a point, though. There was something I was getting at.
You were saying don't dim your partner's light.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, because there are a lot of people that watch my channel, and I tell little stories here and there, and I feel like our relationship and our experience. I just feel like there are a lot of people, men and women, that like to kind of hold their partner down, or like, I don't know. It's like, I feel like, and I don't want to sound sexist, but I probably will, because it's kind of like that on the spectrum part of me, I guess. But I feel like there are so many women out there that want a man that, they want him to have money and success and power and height and, style and all of these things, but none of them are willing to invest in a man and actually support him to get there. They just want to walk into it. And I feel like that's why they never find it. And then they're still looking in their 50s like, "Why, where did I go wrong?" And I feel like you and I met when we were just starting out, I think, in life in general, and we kind of helped each other get to where we wanted to be, you know, and we support each other to get where we want to be and accomplish what we want to accomplish. And I'm like, most people are too lazy to pay that price, or they're too entitled to like invest that time and that energy and that care, that all of the things that are associated with that. And I guess I think that that's the message that I want to kind of explain and tell anyone watching. It's just like, you need to be able to support through the failures, through the random constant stream of ideas, the fact that you have anyone with a dream, with wanting to accomplish more, with as crazy ideas they could be. It doesn't matter. The fact that someone's thinking about a better way all the time, it is just a matter of time until they find it. Until they find that one thing that clicks with them and empowers them to take things to the next level.
Well, I think though too, I've always been someone that has not liked complacency. I just like learning, growing, evolving, new experiences. I don't know, always searching for more. And this just dawned on me. A lot of people didn't have any dreams, and that bothered me because please edit that out. You better.
I will.
That was no, you better. I say things that come out really wrong. I do
too, but I just say screw it.
No.
I stopped worrying about
but
that
I actually
years ago.
don't. But I don't mean it the way mine. You always mean your things the way that you say it. I don't.
Okay, fair enough.
You have to edit
Basically,
this.
you've dated people in the past that just didn't have a drive to accomplish more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I just like to grow and evolve in all things, all ways.
Right.
And yeah, and I think people change, people evolve, people's interests change and evolve, and yeah.
And I get
and
that.
I think that's another reason probably why I was attracted to you, because is that you did always have all these ideas and thoughts, and I felt like we could really grow together, and yeah.
And we have, you know, and we're definitely not normal. But what is normal? You know what I mean? I feel like when you watch so many other couples in the world and how they are and how they interact, or how I feel like, especially on social media, I feel like so many couples project such a fake image of themselves and a fake kind of idea of who they are, and like behind the scenes, the reality is such a shit show, you know. And it's just like, I feel like with us, we just kind of, what you see is what you get for the most part.
Yeah, and I like really, really genuine, real, kind, interesting, intelligent people. And I mean, they could be from any walks of life, from wherever in the world. It's just kindness, interesting, maybe a free thinker, creative.
So to get a hot wife, you have to not be a douchebag.
Yeah.
You can turn into one later like I did. No, I'm kidding. So since I got into the crypto space, and since that manic night of just, how have our lives changed?
How has
our life changed?
Yes.
Or how
what are you trying
have
to
our
say?
lives changed?
Yeah, but you said life.
Okay, I don't know what I'm
Whatever.
saying. I'm confusing myself because I don't know grammar.
Well,
how has our life changed overall?
I would say, oh man.
Do you wish I would have gone back to mortgage?
No. No, you always needed to work for yourself in some way. That's for sure. Like whatever it was, you needed to work for yourself. Because you weren't happy at all in mortgage.
There are definitely parts of that though I do miss. Believe it or not, as shitty as I thought a lot of it was at the time, Not, and I mean, honestly, the only part of the mortgage business I missed was dialing for dollars, as crazy as that sounds. And I remember I would come home exhausted and just
Mm.
dead. But there was something about just that constant daily competition with everyone else that would just drive me. And
Mm-hmm.
when I was number one, who got the most rolls that day and all that. I don't know. I do kind of miss that. Just kind of feeling like a golden boy,
Yeah.
But outside of that, I really didn't like it.
Yeah. I mean, our lives, financially are a lot easier for sure. It's given me the opportunity to kind of not work and pursue my dance dreams, which is amazing. I would say in the beginning, maybe the first 2 years, I don't think everything was so exciting because it was new. And so even though I knew you were putting in these like crazy long hours and you were always like really hyper focused on what you were doing and researching, I was really supportive. But I think over time, so like the first year went by and it's like, oh wow, you make more money, here's this new lifestyle and it's exciting, but you don't really realize all of the other parts of your relationship start to slowly slip away, like quality time, really listening to each other. You kind of slip into a mode, at least I think we did, of taking each other for granted.
Mhm.
And so a lot of the things that are necessary for a healthy relationship, we were not focusing on or doing
Mhm.
for each other at all. And so,
Yeah.
and then by the time that and then it goes into the following year where it's like, then that snowball had already started and we kind of didn't know exactly how to like work backwards. We did, but and it was rough. Like we had a rough, probably really rough year and a half, but once we made it through that, and came out on the other side of it, I feel like now we're better than we've ever been.
Yeah, there was definitely because there was the point where I thought that I'm gonna do this for a year and everything's gonna be great, and I made all these decisions that I thought would be concluded within like a year's time,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of like I don't know, in some ways I thought just give me this year. I remember us having this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
just give me this year and like forget I'm here. Let
Yeah.
me just do all this stuff. I've got all these responsibilities. I have all of this stuff weighing me down. I just want to get through it. I want everything to come out great. And then we'll focus on us and we'll go travel and we'll go do this and that. And like you said, like 1 year turned into 2, turned into 3. And it's like then it's cycle after cycle. And you know, but in that time, I feel like we did have a lot of opportunity to learn from a lot of mistakes
Mm-hmm.
too, and I think if there's one thing that we've definitely learned is nothing is really the end of the world. It's just another transition and it's another way to demonstrate your commitment.
Yeah.
So, and which we both had so many basically we both had all these needs, all these wants, but then our like the goal,
Mm-hmm.
like I've always looked at everything like same way like with fitness, I need to make I can either have abs or have money. What's most important? Because I don't have time to do both. And that's the way I've always looked at it. Even though you got all these dudes everywhere that are all shredded and they're like, look at my house, and they're all selling courses on fitness and all that. And it's like, you got a lot of personal but it's like if fitness isn't your life, it's difficult to focus on fitness and being in shape and all of that. And this is probably a total cop out from any one of you out there that are like super fit and do really well. I get it. But I'm just saying that's been my mentality is like, and maybe even to some degree an excuse to just like focus entirely on what actually interests me. It's like I want, and everybody in my comments are like, you got to focus on your health, Crow. You got to focus on your health, and without your health, you have nothing. And it's like I totally get that, and I know that. But it's like I put so much aside because it's like you discover something that you feel is like how many of you guys watching this have invented something in your lifetime, either mentally or on paper, and you didn't take advantage of the idea because either someone talked you out of it, or you waited too long, or you forgot about it, and then a couple years later it pops up and you realize, oh my gosh, somebody stole my idea, right? They didn't steal it, they just did something with the idea and you didn't. And that's kind of the way I have felt about everything in blockchain and crypto. It's kind of I need to calling all cars. I need to put everything I am and can into this while I have the opportunity, because we can't afford to miss this.
Yeah.
And that did play a toll on us for a while, because I was distant and I was just kind of, not that I didn't care about anything, but I felt like I'm making all these sacrifices and focused on all of this now while I can, so that we can enjoy the rest of our lives and not have to worry about it anymore. And here we are, still in it. I'm still doing YouTubes. I'm still in crypto. But I think we have a much happier balance, because I used to work all night.
Mm-hmm.
You used to go to bed basically alone every night for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always reading. I was always researching, watching videos.
We had opposite schedules. So I would get up with the kids, do the whole school thing with the kids. And because you worked late, I mean, you would get up a lot later than me. So basically, by the time I got home with the kids, you were getting your work. I mean, you would start working, like really start working like 1 to 2 p.m. every day.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much work all day, have dinner, go back to work, and then work until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, I like never saw you.
Yeah.
And then you were so stressed out.
That even when you did see me, it wasn't.
Yeah, that even when I did see you, you were like, "What do you have to offer?"
What? I definitely know that I was stressed out a lot, and I know that I was not always a peach. And I still get stressed out a lot. I mean, really, crypto is not doing what we do. A lot of people out there like, oh, you read some news, or you do a breakdown of this project or that project, but it's like, man, there's so much more to it than that. And there's so much more responsibility. And there's, it's a hard to explain animal. It's like, I talk about Ben, Bit Boy, and like all the stress that he, I can't imagine being in Ben's shoes right now and dealing with the size of his channel, the expectation, the constant 24/7 influx of either you're the man or you're a piece of shit, and having thousands and thousands of people on either side of that fence at all times. And just I feel like I don't think he takes any of it in stride. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a difficult, challenging thing to try and a lot of us, we started here and then we built up to somewhere else much more quickly than most people do in other industries, partly because it's not all still new, partly because there's still so many new people coming into the space. And there's so much to it, but it's not easy. And there's a lot on the line. And there's a lot changing day by day. You never know how your entire industry is going to change from one day to the next because of this law or this regulation or this hack or this, it's just, there's so much all the time, and trying to keep ahead of that. But I will say that at least we've learned so much about how to handle each other better, I think, through the years, for sure. How to manage time better. Like, I basically nowadays, I work in the afternoon, I come down, we have dinner, we hang out for a little while, we watch TV, or we watch whatever series we're watching until she passes out, and then I go right back upstairs and I work until, 12, 1, and then I try to go to bed at a better hour. And, so there are all these compromises over the years that slowly we kind of chip away at each other until we're both getting what we need out of each other. And yeah.
I mean, I think too, in the beginning, like, I think we used to say all the time, like, we still do love each other so much. But we're so crazy in love, I feel like, for the first, I don't know, like 6-7 years of our relationship, marriage. I don't, one or the other. But anyway, I feel like we felt at the time we didn't need to put in all the work because we were always just so in love. It always worked out. And we were always kind of providing the other person with what they needed because, I don't know, we were. But then it's like when you got into the crypto space and you had to commit so much of yourself and so much time to that world that we just kind of in the back of our minds relied on the fact that we loved each other so much, but we didn't put in any work at all to the relationship. And I think it wasn't until it had been a couple years where just, yeah.
Let me ask you this. How many women, I mean, given everything that we see in society today, the way people are, the way men are, the way women are in general, like especially the younger folks, how many of them do you think would have stuck through some of the more difficult times that we've had and basically lasted to enjoy like the fruits of all of that work?
I think only like really upstanding people. Well, why do I feel like I say things and then I'm like,
I get what you're saying.
That sounds bad. I don't mean
like
it
the truly committed that have like a sense of foresight and like commitment.
Yeah, or like certain values, and I don't know. There's just been people that I have known throughout my life who really value family and what they have, and they have they have been married for a long time, and for whatever reason, kind of the same reason, like I feel like a lot of people do that, where they have a really good relationship, and for whatever reason something comes along in life where they forget to work on the relationship. And I feel like it is when both parties can realize, okay, we've both messed up, we've both done things wrong, but they want to put in the commitment of changing and working and getting better and like working on the relationship. I think when two people can actually do that and they want to be better for it, I think it makes the relationship so much stronger. And at that point, you really have like that person that you share your life with, that like partner, that it's so much more than what it was before,
Right. Well, it's almost like the best analogy I would come up with is almost like you break or crack a lot of bones through a relationship, but every time you mend those injuries, they just grow back stronger.
Yeah.
And I feel like nowadays I just don't see people having the strength, the commitment,
But I think that comes from both sides. I feel
it does. It's not a man or female thing, really. It's just in general. I feel like everybody now wants their life to be the same way they get everything else. Quickly, they absorb it and they move on. They absorb it and they move on. They get what they want. They look for everything is so quick. And everybody wants the easiest, quickest solution to whatever at the moment. And so it's almost like the entire world around you is fleeting.
That could be true. But I've also always said this. I feel like we were so in love. Well, I'm not a settler. So like I know for a fact that there were a few guys that I had dated that probably, had we dated for long enough, would have proposed. And I broke up with them because I just knew that that wasn't my trajectory of life. And I feel like when I met you, I just felt like we had such similar values and core beliefs of what we wanted out of life and how we wanted to live life and grow together. I feel like people get into relationships maybe with not the foresight of the future.
Right.
Every person I dated with foresight of my future.
Right. Yeah, I will say that we couldn't be more opposite people, but the core of both of us are very much in line and the same. And that's been, I think, the big thing.
And you've never tried to change me. You've always
Right.
accepted me for 100% who
Because
I
I've always
am.
had a thing for Wednesday. I've grew up on the Addams Family.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, and
But you can't change people.
I know.
You've never tried to change me.
Right.
We help each other be more adaptable, over the years, like how we might live or something,
I feel like I'm progressively sinking
You might be.
down into this chair.
Yeah, there you go. But you can't change people. And even if you're under the illusion or somebody is under the illusion that they can change someone, it's always temporary.
Happen.
It's never going to happen.
Yeah.
And, I will say this too. In 12 years, and I know I've said this before, I can't remember a single time my wife has ever nagged me about anything. I mean, even when we were struggling, when we were check to check and everything was rough, and it didn't matter. Like, she's just a boss, like in the sense that, if I left a dish somewhere, she didn't like hunt me down and be like, you left a dish in there, you need to go get that. Stuff that just there's a dish there, you just grab it. What? What?
Nothing. I just feel like you're like, stuff that like women do.
I'm trying to be, but it's stuff that I've experienced multiple times before you, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just me talking out of my ass. It's like, no, that really is how. Is something burning?
I keep smelling. I think she's cooking something in there.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure that like this
I
new equipment isn't catching fire.
I can't tell what it is. I think she's cooking.
Okay. But yeah, it's just, there are so many things, and you see it in all the movies, on all the shows, and you see it in friends' relationships, and you see all these different things. And yeah, man, like no. It's like I see guys like Andrew Tate, which he's a douche. Okay, I believe he's quite a douchebag. I think his whole hustle academy, all that, it's all whatever.
He has an academy.
Oh yeah. He has a War Room Academy. If you spend $5,000, you can join a Telegram group and talk to other people that paid $5,000.
Wow.
And there might be somebody in there that actually made some money somehow, and maybe they'll give you a tip or something. I don't really know. But it's like I agree with a lot of what he says. I agree because I've experienced it. Like I know what he's talking about, and I agree with a lot of what he says, but the way he goes about presenting this stuff from this position of like, I'm this shirtless douchebag kickboxer, I'm a 5-time world champion kickboxer, all that. I'm like, dude, cool, but like that doesn't really mean anything. And like, anyone that understands how and where he and his brother made their money, and it's like you didn't invent a wheel or anything. Like, you know what I'm saying? And generating cash flow from vices is not the hardest thing in the world. So it's like, but his kind of the way he thinks about so many things as it relates to relationships and how society is right now, I have to say I agree, because
I feel
people don't want to hear the truth sometimes, but it doesn't mean it's not true.
I feel like it depends on dynamics of a relationship, because I feel like what dynamic works for us wouldn't work for other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like everyone has a different way, personality, strengths, weaknesses, what they're looking for, what matters to them, what makes them feel safe and comfortable. I feel like there's so many different relationship dynamics that I don't know. I feel like if you want something that's traditional and more, the guy is the breadwinner and the woman cooks dinners, great. If that's what you want, awesome.
By the way, are we having dinner tonight?
I already made you dinner. And yeah, I just feel like it just really depends on the dynamic. And I feel like now dynamics are changing, and maybe there's not as many traditional relationships, and more people are waiting longer to get married. And maybe people aren't really getting married till they're like 30, 35, 40 and even above. But also too, is that because society has always made you think and feel that if you don't get married before a certain age, something's wrong with you. that's a lot of pressure that's put on young people, especially if you're brought up in a more conservative, very family forward. And for some people, that lifestyle just doesn't add up. That's not who they are at their core. Maybe they are a little bit more immature. Maybe social media does play a role with emotional maturity, which I think it does a little bit. And it's definitely changing the trajectory of like, what matters to people. But that's just isn't that always what happens in evolution?
I mean, I think
the way things change.
I think that relationships today are drastically different. But I don't, this is one of those things that I get a little like, I'm not sure how to word this. I just think society's going to hell, quite honestly. I mean, I just think that everything is getting to a point where we're taking, okay, here's the way I honestly look at it. Screw it. I believe that the majority of society as a whole needs to be led down an avenue or they're completely lost. And I believe that over the years and the centuries or whatever, yeah, people were definitely pushed more into, get married, have a family, get a job, work, do your whatever you need to do, take care of your family. Mm-hmm. Because without that guidance, what would they accomplish? What would they do? How would the world turn? And I feel like so many rules that were in place before technology, so to speak, and where we're at now, where everything is at a push of a button, everything we want can appear at our doorstep. We're in a position now where we don't really have to have that big, hard labor or that real commitment or that workman's pride and all. It's like so many of us have gone past that point because now we're in this fourth industrial revolution. Mm-hmm. and it's all about that. And so now it's less about religion, family, values, all that. And it's almost like every man for himself. And everybody's kind of pushed away from relationships. Men are now demonized. It's like all these different movements that are basically trying to say that, this group is bad and that group is bad. And there's the division that's being created everywhere we look, basically keeping us all apart and separate or at odds with one another. So all of this stuff going on today with the way society, in my opinion, is being deprogrammed from the old programming and into the new, it's all to benefit an entirely different, I don't know what the right wording is, cycle, I guess, if you will. I mean, yeah, I just, and I can get really heated about a lot of this stuff because to some degree, I worry about, our kids. I worry about social media. I mean, it used to be MTV raised kids, right? MTV mm-hmm. raised us.
So what exactly do you think is the agenda, the bigger agenda? Because what exactly do you think is the bigger agenda?
Well, to a large degree, I'm still figuring that out, which is why I read all the crazy stuff I read. But I think that
because I'll tell you what I think.
Go for it.
And we've had this discussion before, is that I think because I personally don't have any issue at all with anything like LGBTQ, whatever, on regular TV, Disney. I mean, me and Celine me and our daughter would watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
But and I personally, that's one of my favorite shows. I think I've binge watched like every single. I mean, certain episodes or some episodes you just basically mostly we would watch the end of it where they would do the actual competition part because some of it was a little out there. But I don't know. I just feel like it allows people to feel normal. I think when all you see are the traditional standards of a boy and the traditional standards of a girl, you think those are your only options. And when it's always in your face 24/7 from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, that is the expectation of you. You're either this box or you're this box. And you have to choose. And it's in now, instead of having 2 boxes to choose from, you have 15, because so many people are on a variation of a spectrum, whatever you want to call it. And so when you see somebody where you're like, oh my gosh, that person's like me, I feel comfortable now expressing myself how I want to, because I am seeing people that I can relate to. That's important to me. And now I feel like I can be who I am. Now, do I think there's a difference between, just expressing that and just showing it, and then I guess maybe there are some platforms that take it.
I don't have any problem whatsoever with any of that stuff, obviously, as you know, but I do have a problem with things being literally forced on people. I have a problem
I get that.
being told I have to call you an is it or an isot because you made it up last night in your bedroom, and if I don't refer to you that way, I'm a terrible whatever. That's the kind of shit that I draw the line.
I agree with you, but remember,
be you. Enjoy your life any way that doesn't hurt anybody.
Sure.
But don't expect me to fall in line with whatever you concocted 24 hours ago. That's the kind of shit that I draw a line.
There's always extremists in all ways.
Sure.
So the people that are the loudest are typically those small extreme groups.
Right.
Which are
on both
always,
sides of that.
Right.
For sure.
Which are always plastered all over the news.
But I also do believe that there is some sort of, I think that when you say, well, what is the end goal? What is the agenda? Some of it I don't even feel comfortable talking about because you just get censored right off of the platform. But some of it is, I do think that there's something to be said about not necessarily a depopulation type thing, but a population control element. And I do believe that there is a population control element to a lot of this new wave of society. And maybe I'm wrong. But I think that when we are taking out all of the elements of things that have been the binding to families for so many years, and we're trying to remove them from the general lexicon of society, then we are ultimately just getting rid of the glue that unites people as families in favor of a different system altogether.
So, okay, I'm going to ask another question. So when exactly have families, when in history, and this is just a question, I've never even thought about this before until you're talking about it now, at what point were families and the family dynamic, at what point in history did that come in as an extreme importance? Because I would assume that at some point way back when, people, men specifically, were having sex with tons of women and getting a lot of women pregnant and just kind of doing whatever in a more, like, before any type of civilization, like when it was more animalistic and barbaric, before, any type of like civilized.
All of that is an era and a form of cultivating society.
Sure.
So before we actually had society, like you said, everybody's just running around banging whatever. That was like, that was just an animalistic pre-culture, I guess you could say, pre-whatever, like, right? And that went, you're also talking about a time when, everybody had a farm. If you want to go back,
I'm going back way before that.
Right.
Like
okay. Well, before that, there were no lessons to be taught. It was just basically all instinctual. So, instinctually, you could go back that far. I mean, you want to go into the Romans, the Roman gladiators and everything were doing each other and everyone else. Like it was just there was nothing to be said about it. And I feel like the dynamic of the conversation changes as, to be honest, to some degree, whatever controlling entities decide it does. Like things change with what the expectations are for society to achieve XYZ goal at that time.
I would agree with you.
As those expectations or those needs change in a time when everybody has to hunt for their food, and we're building log cabins trying to live, and we're starting to create the very beginnings of industry, and we need workers, and we need more men, and we need more people out there that are basically dying, starting to build the world. Well, you're burning through a lot of people and a lot of this dangerous stuff, and you have to replenish those people.
Right.
And so there are certain things. And on top of that, women definitely needed men much more back then for, protection, for food, for money, for everything. It's not like it is now. Women
Right.
don't really need men anymore. I mean, in that sense, financially or whatever.
I thought people were really forced and driven and like pushed to have families because the different, whether it was religion.
They are. My point to that was that men were flagrant on the side, and most women just looked beyond it.
Right.
It wasn't like today where if a guy fart smells too bad, the woman's going to leave and take half his shit. Like, or a woman's just going to go out and have an affair and blame the man, leave him, take half his shit, and then go and then start collecting alimony checks from all of her ex-husbands. Like that, it's like that. That's what I'm talking about. Back then, there weren't those options, so families stuck together even when somebody was flagrant.
Yeah, and I think with the way society is changing, I would say the court systems are far behind that because society is changing so quickly. And I know you're talking about something specific, but I do feel like the court systems are very far behind as far as being up to societal standards. But
yeah, and I've always kind of asked that
like,
question of, are they actually far behind, or is it right where they want it to be? Because what's happening right now? What are you seeing? What's the narrative of young men nowadays? Don't get married. What's the point of getting married? Because all the woman has to do is say, I don't like you anymore. Take half your shit. And then, basically leave the guy in the poorhouse while he's feeding her and her new husband or her new boyfriend or her new whatever. Right. And everybody's afraid of that now because the laws haven't changed. But what has that done? It's created another division in the family. It's created another reason why you don't risk having a family. Right. There are so many of these things that play as a variable to dividing the family, making sure there isn't a family. And again, that goes partially into my whole kind of population control, because, a lot of these people believe that we're going to be overpopulated.
So maybe we don't need families anymore.
I don't know. Do we or do we not? I feel like the family guides a lot of men. I feel like family guides a lot of people. And I feel like the more you have to lose, the less stupid you are, in general, to some degree. I mean, think about it. When I was young, I was nuts. How many times have you said I can't believe you're still alive? Like, I did so much crazy stuff when I was young.
But that's what matters to you.
Right. I mean, it's different for everyone.
Right.
But my point is, okay. All right. I've said enough. I don't know if you're not getting it or if you just blatantly disagree.
I am getting it. I know what you're saying. I know that the way our society is, it's obvious our society does not want exponential growth in population currently.
Right. Even though I think technically we're going backwards a great degree, but you can't control a population as big as the global population is today very easily. And if you want to change into this whole fourth industrial revolution where things are, we don't need the workforce that we used to need. We don't need the number of people today to continue driving society further. So what do? Well, you figure out ways to either let them die out and decrease the number of people that are coming into existence. And it's much easier to control that smaller population. But that's just the way I don't know, if I were ruler of the world, I mean, a lot of what's happening today would be exactly what I would do if I were smart enough to have that foresight. If I wanted to decrease the number of people I wanted to control, and I had some other, I don't know, ulterior motive to what, I don't know. You look at things so drastically differently than I do. And that's the thing. She is, like I said, the core of us is very similar. It's very much the same. But outside of that, it's like you can have the same seed, but one of us is a pear and the other's a banana.
I mean, I don't disagree with you.
I'm always right sometimes.
As far as like on the fact of, is there any, like, for example, the all of these different religions and factions of religion. They wanted their religion to be most powerful. So they were pushing families to procreate, to basically have a bigger population of that religion. We don't have that anymore. And so I just feel like, but again, that's power. That's like power and control.
It all depends on what the agenda is at the time.
So I agree with that aspect with you. I also believe, though, that it is also really important for people to have equality and
inclusion, all of that is absolutely important. I totally agree. Obviously, we both have friends of all walks of life, and we love all of them. And you know, I am all about inclusion, and everyone should feel like they belong and should be comfortable being themselves, whatever they may be in the world.
See, none of the extremists really bother me because I think they're all idiots. All extremists on all levels, and they're everywhere. Everywhere.
But you're way more laid back about everything than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and that's good for you. It's why you don't have high blood pressure. I don't know. I feel like
I see someone who's so extreme and like all these people, and you see them on the news, and these people get so mad. I'm like, those people make up not a lot of the population, and they're idiots. And it's like, also, who cares?
Yeah. I feel like we're losing light as it's getting dark, and these little lights aren't quite as bright as I thought they were. So people are just watching the transition from daytime to nighttime before their very eyes. So you know what? I love you.
I love you. Live and let live, Jason.
Live and let live, whatever. Damn hippie. So yeah, like, hey, we're just hanging out and having a drink and just shooting the shiz and you know, airing it all for the world to see. I don't know. What did you guys think of this? Is this something? I mean, you know, if there are questions that you'd love to ask us, and maybe we'll do this again in the future, maybe with better lighting earlier in the day, so that we don't run out of light. I'm curious to see how this all turned out, quite frankly, because I have no idea what to expect when I pull this hard drive off. So, yeah, you know, we'll next time maybe I'll do it with scotch too instead of whatever this milkshake was.
Yeah, you didn't drink very much.
I drank the whole thing, really.
You did?
Yeah, but it was a milkshake. It was gone in 2 sips.
Oh, there's more in the refrigerator.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. Maybe next time I'll stick with scotch. But until next time, guys, crow your coins, and I definitely look forward to seeing your comments down below, and we'll see you again real soon.